Hello, hello, and welcome to the show. This is the Delaware Blogger Podcast, and I'm your host, Antoinette Blake, the DE Diva, aka the Delaware Blogger. And every week, I come to you with podcasting pointers that will help you to share your mission and your vision just by using your voice. A new episode of the Delaware Blogger Podcast publishes every Saturday at 10 a.m. And if you wish to sponsor a show, please send an email to me at info@ablakeenterprises.com. Welcome to the Delaware Blogger Podcast. Hello, and welcome to the show. This is episode number 323 of the Delaware Blogger Podcast. And today I want to talk about podcast best practices. You know, I've been reading a lot of questions on Reddit, especially from new podcasters or those that are thinking about starting a podcast. And there's so many questions from, what should I, the length of my podcast, how long should it be? And remember, I do have that as one of the episodes here on Delaware Blogger Podcast. But there are so many best practices out there. And of course, you're going to listen to who you feel most comfortable with listening to. So today, I'm just going to share you a few of the best practices that I've found that has helped me with my podcast. So let's start with the niche or the topic, niching it now. That's what I want to say. It's kind of funny, right? Niche it now or niche it down. Just like with your brand on your blog, I'm the Delaware Blogger, your podcast should also be niche or targeted to a specific audience. Can never say this enough, but you'll never, ever be able to satisfy everybody. So don't try. That is just too frustrating. You will never be able to reach everyone, nor should you want to reach everyone. So when you're starting a podcast or you're revamping a podcast, think about this. Who is your audience? Who is it? What are the demographics? If you're thinking about that person that's going to be listening to your podcast, who is that target market audience? How old are they? Where do they live? How much money do they make? Do they work? Do they not work? Are they retired? It's like you've got to make sure that you're talking to basically your best friend, like someone that's going to stick with you through thick and thin. And when you think about that audience, what is it that they need to know? I come to you every Saturday, right, at 10 a.m. to give you podcasting pointers. And I'm hoping that I'm sharing things that can be helpful to you. So I know my audience, new podcasters, or those that's just starting out. And if some of you vets pick up some tips and you want to share, please let me know as well. And I would love to promote you on the Delaware Blogger Podcast. So think about that. What is it that who is it that you're trying to reach and what is it that they want to know? So those are that's the one thing, when you're sitting down week after week, month after month, year after year with your podcast, think of the person that's listening. It's not about you. It's about your audience.
Are you ready to join the billion-dollar podcasting industry? If so, Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio is ready for you. Whether you're just starting out and have no equipment, or you're a seasoned pro but need help with production, Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio has everything you need. Conveniently located in Middletown, Delaware, Blake's state-of-the-art production facilities make producing your first or 100th podcast a breeze. No matter what kind of project you have in mind, the professionals at Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio can help with your production or give you the tools to produce it on your own. At the heart of Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio is award-winning blogger, vlogger, and CEO Antoinette Blake, and her goal is simple: to help one more entrepreneur be successful. So stop making excuses and start making your podcast, audiobook, e-course, and other online dreams come true. Call Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio now. 302-261-3530. That's 302-261-3530.
So now that you've niched it down, or got your topic tight, you can be specific with your content. And let me tell you something, you don't have to know it all. Nope. You got to be open to learning more because there's a lot of information out there. You can go to YouTube University, you can go to TikTok, and learn things. You can read, you can sign up for newsletters. So if there's a topic that is of interest to you and, you want to learn more, please do so. Don't feel like you know everything. Reach out. Share others' content. I'm not saying plagiarizing, but make sure that you're keeping up with the trends of your topic or the trends within your niche. And if you have to, this is another best practice. Interview experts. Yeah, interview others, those experts, those gurus. And I'm going to put quotation marks around the word experts and around the words gurus because everyone knows more than someone else, but not everyone knows everything. So you're never, ever, ever, never going to be an expert. But you can bring people onto your podcast that knows maybe a little bit more about, the topic that you're covering, and then they can share that information with your listeners. And sometimes having those two voices makes the conversation even better. And your audience might even like it. So whether you are a quote and unquote guru or quote and unquote expert, there's others out there that have bigger audiences. Maybe they have 1,000 people listening or 10,000 downloads. It's great if you open up your show and bring them on, and you never know. It could be like amazing for you. And if you get a really, really big name guest to appear on your podcast, that's amazing. It could blow up. And don't be afraid to ask others, like, what's the worst thing that they could say? Is like, what? No? Okay, cool. No, you just go on to the next one. So, reach out to those quote and unquote experts or those gurus. And hey, I'm offering up my voice as well. If you want to have me on your show, I'm here. Just send an email to info@ablakeenterprises.com. The third podcast best practice I want to give you is keep it nice and tight, right? Length does matter, right? You know your audience. Are they going to stay and listen for 15 minutes, like here on the Delaware Blogger Podcast? Or are they going to listen for 30 minutes or an hour? Hey, I don't think so. So if you do have a show or a topic or guest and it goes longer than expected, break it up. Now you have 2 shows instead of 1, right? So, don't just ramble just to be rambling. So keep it short and sweet, nice and tight. The fourth best practice I want to give you is show notes, right? Transcription. Create a blog or pod page. I used to use pod page, but now I repurpose my content on Del Blogger. This is great because you can share links to other resources. So if you're selling tickets or products or merch or something like that, that's a great way because people can't click and go by listening to audio. But if you have show notes, you can offer additional information, email, links. You can even offer opt-ins, giveaways, downloadables. Again, ways to connect more with your listening audience. So that's another best practice you might want to think about. Here's another one. Share it on all your social media platforms, all the ones that you know are going to be there. People say, oh, just go where they are. No, share them on all the ones that you are, because that way you can keep a handle on if someone's, because you're checking Facebook, you're checking Twitter, you're checking Instagram, you're checking TikTok, you're checking LinkedIn, whatever the case may be. Make sure that you are sharing on all the social media platforms that you're regularly on, because you would hate to be sharing your podcast, say on LinkedIn, and you don't check LinkedIn. And then there's opportunities and offers that's coming and you miss it because you're not checking it. So make sure you're sharing it on all your platforms. You're going to find your audience. Don't worry about where they are, so much so. Make sure you are there when they need you. So if you're on Twitter, if you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, if you're on TikTok, make sure that's where you're sharing your content so that you're regularly checking to see if people have questions, concerns. Maybe they want to be a guest on your show. Perhaps they want to, buy sponsorship. You're going to miss them if you're not checking those sites where you're promoting. And don't promote on sites that you're not going to check. So that's really the bottom line. Don't just, throw them out there, throw out the links, and then not check. And speaking of sponsorships, search for them. Yeah, find out, are there sponsors out there? Podcasts are growing. Podcasts are powerful. Podcasts are popular. And people, small business owners, big business owners, Etsy dealers, there's people out there that want to get more exposure on their products and or your services. So put it out there, put it as part of your CTA, your call to action on your show. Let people know that you're taking a sponsor. Let them know the type of sponsors you're looking for. And definitely, why don't you just create a sponsorship document? So if someone sends you an email, you can get it to them in a swiftness. Set your rates, set your terms. If you're a clean family podcast, you definitely don't want to take on a product that is not clean and family friendly. So that's definitely another best practice for a podcaster. So if you're looking for those sponsors or ask for sponsors, again, include that as part of your call to action. I think the last one I want to leave you is the consistency. I can't reiterate that more. Consistency is key. Think of it as a date. You've heard me say this before. Don't break the date. Don't publish your podcast inconsistently, all willy-nilly. We know that life happens, which is why I talked about batch publishing in a previous episode. Batch publishing is beneficial and it works, especially if you have a busy lifestyle. If you've got a lot of external activities, if you're working a 9-to-5, if you have a big family, if things are busy, you're going to go to the Super Bowl, whatever the case may be. You don't want to leave your listeners hanging. So be consistent. Batch publishing. It helps, especially if you have a busy lifestyle. And you can do this. You can create small series of podcast episodes on one topic. Do 10 of them, right? So that way you have 2 months and you're out there. Of course, if your show is timely and it's about, late breaking news, you can't do that. But some people, believe it or not, even though you can listen to a podcast anytime, anywhere at your leisure, some people like to plan around the podcast that they listen to. So if you're publishing every Wednesday or Saturday, like me, then your listeners will know when to expect a new episode and they will build it into their schedule, especially if it's a service-based podcast, health and fitness or motivation or meditation. They're going to be looking for you. So be consistent and stay there. Do not break the date. And one other thing, I know I said that was the last one, but again, that call to action, going back to that call to action, every podcast should start with or end with a call to action. Welcome people to your show. Let them know that you've got an offering, Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio or an upcoming event. You can also sprinkle it in throughout the podcast. And if you're a podcaster, you want to learn more about podcasting, check out my 5-week coaching course, right? Send an email to info@ablakeenterprises. Let people know that you want to connect with them after they've listened to your podcast. So leave that call to action. So those are just a few of the podcast best practices that I'm sharing with you today on episode 323. Bring in some experts, other experts, and remember, I'm putting those quotation marks around the word experts and gurus. Length does matter. Keep it short and sweet, nice and tight. Don't ramble and ramble and ramble. Provide those show notes, share on the social media channels that you're active on. Look for those sponsors. Be consistent and include a CTA. So thank you guys so very much for listening to the Delaware Blogger Podcast, because every Saturday at 10, I'm here to give you information, to give you pointers. And if you want to share this with someone, because sharing is caring, do so. Leave a rating or review, and also check out some other episodes too. Subscribe to the blog, delblogger.com, where I'm, repurposing content. That's where you're going to find the show notes. So until the next time, stay smart, stay safe, stay sweet, stay safe, especially during these winter weather in February. And if you're listening to this in the summer, hey, be safe anyway. See ya. It's the DE Diva, aka the Delaware Blogger.